51, or in their Area 51, and he met these creatures also. And these are the creatures that are all through our lore, the leprechauns and the elves and the fairies and all these things. These are these creatures that we keep meeting. And they're playing games with us. That's what alien abduction. Alien abductions is them trying to genetically create hybrids with us, their cousins. But UFOs have generally been used as a ruse to make us think that it's extraterrestrial. In other words, they're going out of their way to make us think that there's an ET presence. That's not to say there isn't an ET presence, but that most of the things that we're seeing are either U.S. military or these crypto-terrestrials, as McDonald's call them, which I think is a really good name. And once you understand that, then you can kind of back engineer the whole thing, go through the ancient texts, the Book of Enoch, the Puranas, which are ancient Indian texts, and you can begin seeing the history of this other race and its interaction with us. And they are the Nephilim, they are the Anunnaki, they're also the Aryans, they're all the same group. But they're just like humans. They have different sizes and shapes. There's tall ones, there's short ones. They're generally, though, they have chalk white skin. They have a very pointed chin. They have Asian eyes, blue generally. They're the grays. They're the tall whites. They're all. And what I think happened, what the Puranas say, as I said on your show last time, is that. This was a group of humans who a long time ago left the Earth before the periodic catastrophe and either got stuck on Mars or migrated here from Mars as refugees, we don't know, and they were advanced and they kept their advanced technology, and they've been playing tricks on us for a long time. And I believe they're actually the ones who have created most of our religions to control us, to keep us in check, because they're afraid of us. We scare them, not only because of the way that we pollute the planet that they have to live on with us, but because of our reckless behavior towards nature. And alchemy, by the way, it's their science. It's the science of these other creatures, and the secret got into mankind, and I think they may be releasing the secret again. And because they're afraid that things have gotten way out of control, and they're worried about even more reckless behavior by us. And they have been in a process of, I believe, going to Mars and leaving this planet for about 40 years now. And there's colonies, I believe, on Mars, and they think that there's going to be a catastrophe, and they want to get as far away from the sun as they can, and the only reasonable place you can go in the solar system would be Mars, underground.
What could this colony consist of, do you think, Jay, right about now?
Well, it's a combination of, all I have to do is type in Google and Hale Crater Civilization to see the colony that's up in Hale Crater on Mars, but it's essentially a U.S. military and these creatures made a deal in the 50s. I now believe they made a deal with Eisenhower, and this race is, I think, dying, or it's genetically reaching a dead end, and so they're intermixing with humans, and this is what the abductions have been about. A lot of the abductees said they were taken down into underground headquarters, which is truly exactly what they would have done if it had been these creatures. And I think these creatures have kind of left. The sightings of them are starting to drop off. The places where they used to be seen on Earth, they're not being seen anymore. And I think that they may have abandoned ship.
You know, in my first hour, I was talking with Bill Burns, publisher of UFO Magazine, about the Apollo 18 movie, and he was hypothesizing and believes that on the dark side of the moon, there are indeed structures, perhaps cities, who knows.
That's what I've heard. But you don't have to go to the far side of the moon. All you have to do is Google in crater Aristarchus Clementine, and you'll see pictures of a gigantic blue dome with geometry that the Clementine mission photographed or imaged in 1994 on our side of the moon in crater Aristarchus. And in that report that Bill was talking about, the Translunar Phenomena report, which you can get on the internet, which is a blow-by-blow account of strange anomalous things seen on the moon by all of the top astronomers since the invention of the telescope. For almost 500 years of observation, you will see that 50 to 60% of the activity that they report seeing through their telescopes on the moon through hundreds of years takes place in the crater Aristarchus, right where the Clementine imaged a gigantic, huge blue dome. So whoever is up on the moon has been there for at least 400 to 500 years. They have gigantic domes, and they have structures. And yes, I've heard the same stories that there are breathtaking structures on the far side of the moon.
That's fascinating. Let's talk a little bit about Kubrick's Odyssey before we take calls with you next hour, Jay. Tell me about your latest work here.
Well, I was in France when Kubrick died in '99, and I was always a big fan. I'm like you. I think he's a great genius.
Yeah.
And I started to, DVDs were coming out in 2001, a little bit later, and I started buying them and watching them. And I've been working with Hoagland on a lot of the Apollo imagery since 1992 or so. I kind of got over-obsessed with it, spent years just looking at all the Apollo images and everything. And while I was watching 2001, when the DVD came out, I was watching the ape scenes at the beginning and marveling at Stanley Kubrick's incredible cinematic use of a technique called front-screen projection, in which the apes are on a soundstage, and then the desert scenes are projected around them. Kubrick perfected that process, when suddenly I realized that some of the NASA imagery had that same kind of effect, the same fingerprint of front-screen projection. And I started looking, and then I realized that the film 2001 had the science advisor was Fred Ordway, who was the top science advisor during the Apollo mission. I realized that 2001: A Space Odyssey was made exactly during the same time that the Apollo program was being constructed. And I came to the realization, and I prove it, I believe, in the film, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that Stanley Kubrick faked a lot of the stuff that we saw on the moon. That's not to say they didn't go to the moon. They did go to the moon. They've been to the moon many times. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they created an insurance policy just in case something bad happened. And a lot of the stuff that we see is not real. And I prove it in the film, and I've had special effects people from Hollywood, email me going, "Wow, man, you nailed it." And I can tell you that I can tell you that I have the smoking gun for a lot of the Apollo imagery being front-screen projection, i.e. faked. I do not have a smoking gun that Kubrick did it, except for the fact that he's hanging out with all the people at NASA. 2001 was shot exactly during the time of the Apollo program, and more importantly, he left secrets of what he went through in the making of this fakery in his film, The Shining. And anytime that he deviates from the Stephen King novel, he's telling you his secret story of what he went through. So this is the film is the first of a 3-part series I'm doing on Stanley Kubrick, and George, it is really wild. The next one, I get into his use of subliminal images all through his later films. He's been airbrushing images behind images, and he's telling us a story of actually the Illuminati, and especially in Eyes Wide Shut, which
he died before he completed it, didn't he?
Yes, in fact, it's the only Kubrick film that he didn't edit.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody else edited it, and we don't even know what he really meant to say because he died 666 days before January 1st, 2001, by the way.
Well, and you could tell something was up with that movie because it wasn't all his. You have to look at it almost 3 times before it makes sense to you, Jay.
You're absolutely right, and there's also huge continuity errors, and Kubrick was such a perfectionist that there's no way that he would make these continuity errors, and I will point those out in the next film, and I believe that's where things have been taken out, and I believe that there's a whole other story that kind of was removed because it was a little bit too controversial. But you can see that it's, no matter what happened, it still got through. There's just really interesting things like Sidney Pollack's name in the movie is Ziegler, and Ziegler is Yiddish for bricklayer, and a bricklayer is, of course, a mason. And it's obvious that he's the head of this occult sex magic group or whatever it is, and so Kubrick still got enough in to show you that he was trying to say something of immense importance. Unfortunately, it did get aborted when he died, and it's tragic.
Now, the elitists here, the Illuminati, the people that he illustrated in Eyes Wide Shut that you've looked at in some of your work as well, these are the ancients. They go all the way back. They could also be this ET race. Are these the reptilians that are shapeshifters that David Icke talks about?
Yeah, I think that the people mistake them as reptilians because they've got a very serious skin problem, and it's very scaly because they can't really take the weather here on Earth very well. That's why they live underground.
They probably have psoriasis or something.
It is like that, and that's what the reports are. And so I don't think they're really reptilians. I think they're mistaken for that. I think they're our cousins because here's the thing, they can procreate with us. So they're not very alien. And why would an alien travel all the way across the universe to tell people to not pollute? Right? These are more of the indications of an indigenous race, which I think Mac Tony really nails in his book. And the elitists are human beings working for these crypto-terrestrials who have promised them long life and wealth and endless amounts of whatever vice they desire, and that's who they serve. And they have, and they got in contact with them. And there's all these various names for these creatures, and they can be quite cruel, according to the lore. They're very intelligent and they're very sophisticated, but they really don't care that much for us, I have to say. And I think if you look at Whitley Strieber's work, and then you can see that they're performing some pretty dastardly things on people, but it's all done as a cover to convince us that this is an extraterrestrial invasion, so that we never look right here at home. And I think we have to start looking there. And I believe the U.S. government knows all about this. Charles Hall's talked about it. I've been told by people inside that this is a well-known fact, that there's this crypto-terrestrial race that's been here for a long, long time. And here's the thing. We really were just scattered people. We couldn't even speak the language of the people in the village over the mountain, really until the end of World War II. And so it was when there was all this commotion and war that suddenly, these creatures started showing their face. And what they did was they tried to intimidate us. They tried to intimidate the military. And look at all the early UFO things. They're flying over D.C. They're flying over military bases. And I think they have a base in a place in Antarctica. I think Hitler was in contact with them. And this is who he meant when he said the Aryans. He wasn't really talking about the Germans. He was talking about a hybrid race, what he called the Lebensborn. And it was a hybrid race of these crypto-terrestrials and humans that were going to take over. And we don't know where that program went. It could still be going on.
We know it probably is still going on, Jay. Jay, give us your websites.
Yeah, sacredmysteries.com to get the Kubrick's Odyssey. And if you want to get a lot of high weirdness, jayweidner.com, jayweidner.com.
And to download that free book of Aquarius, we go
to Sacred Mysteries, to free stuff, and just right there's the PDF. Or you can Google Book of Aquarius and go to the forum, and you can read all the people that are doing all of the work and get the book there also.
Okay. Well, it sounds good, building your own laboratory. Of course, if Dr. Borges would do it, anything could happen. Stay with us. We've got an hour to go with Jay Weidner. We're going to take phone calls with him when we come right back in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And again, that book he was talking about is called The Book of the Aquarius, that someone has written based on the ancients. We'll be right back.